Thanks for joining us again. This is Barry Kazire. Get ready for some real live marketing. Are you a small business owner that is confused over your accounting records? Accounting by Art can help you eliminate this confusion with a free initial one-to-one consultation. Art offers QuickBooks training seminars covering both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, as well as addressing your specific needs and questions. Visit accountingbyart.com and set up your free consultation today. If you're looking for high-quality ink for your home or office at a great price, CR Office Technologies Inc. has the ink you need at the price you want. Visit crofficetech.com. That's crofficetech.com to get the price, the quality, and the service you've been looking for. Welcome back to the show. This is Barry Kazire. Hey, so our guest today is Fred Miller, and Fred's going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, public speaking. This is something I think is vital that everyone learn how to do effectively. You never know when you're going to be in a meeting and all of a sudden they're going to go around and ask everybody to introduce themselves. Well, that's public speaking. And it can be pretty stressful while you're waiting for your turn, but not if you're prepared. Not if you know what you're doing and you've gotten used to talking to people. So here's some great tips from Fred Miller. And right after the presentation, I'm going to give you 3 of my tips for how to be great at public speaking. So check this out. Listen to today's show, get Fred's book, and then stay tuned right afterwards for our tips. Okay? Here we go now for some real live marketing. And before we get into the show, here's a couple of our friends who make this show possible. Feeling lost with accounting, bookkeeping, or payroll for your small business? Accounting by Art offers a free one-on-one consultation for the state of your business. Art Stump has years of experience helping small business owners with their accounting needs. He also offers QuickBooks training seminars covering both QuickBooks Desktop and QuickBooks Online, as well as addressing your specific needs and questions. Seminar participants also get a free 1-hour office visit after the class to be sure their QuickBook issues are solved to their satisfaction. Mention this ad at your consultation and get 10% off initial services when you sign up and pay for your first month. Visit accountingbyart.com today and get started. Tired of high prices and low service when purchasing ink for your home or office printer? CR Office Technologies offers their hassle-free guarantee. If it's not right, we'll make it right. They know that customer service is number one. At CR Office Technologies, you get great service on top of great products at prices that you can't beat. They have laser and fax toner cartridges, inkjet cartridges and paper, laser fuses and drum kits, copier toners, and more. Visit crofficetech.com. That's crofficetech.com to get the price, quality, and service that you've been looking for. Welcome back to our Real Live Marketing. We're here today with Fred Miller of No Sweat Public Speaking. Thanks for joining us today, Fred.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Bill. My pleasure.
So your business, you coach people on public speaking plus quite a bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
I speak, coach, and write about public speaking and presentation skills, and there's a real need out there. I mean, a typical client would call and somebody says, I'm sick and tired of people who don't work as hard as I do, don't contribute as much to the company, but they're getting bonuses, they're getting recognition, they're getting promotions, they're speaking, and they're not even that good. But I'm sitting on my butt not doing it. It's most people's greatest fear. It just holds so many people back personally and professionally.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do a fair amount of public speaking as well, and I'm amazed. You mentioned some of them aren't that good. It's amazing. I mean, beyond the fact of just getting over your fear of public speaking, actually learning how to do it well.
Oh, that's another thing.
Because I tell you, I've sat in a few crowds where it's kind of like, I'm starting to cop some Z's,
Oh, yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
just
Some
horrible.
people think they do. Well, don't. And we can always improve. I'm always learning stuff too, but it's not just what you say, it's how you say it. It's verbal, nonverbal communication. Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. So, like, I had a friend the other day tell me who was willing to come on the show, but he wasn't willing to do a speaking event with me. Yeah, and so it was the audience, I guess. I mean, he wasn't afraid of microphones, No
Yeah.
problem.
Interesting.
Hundreds of people are going to hear him, so that wasn't a problem. But standing in front of a group of 40, 50 people, what's up with that? What have you found is the cure and the cause of the situation?
Well, interesting you say it. Mark Reardon, KMOX, he was interviewing me. He said, I speak to thousands of people all the time. Not a big deal, but I get in front of a crowd, and not that I can't do it, but it's different. Well, we're out of our comfort zone. If you think about it, most of our conversations are one-on-one, like you and I. A lot of those are on the phone. You don't see the person, you just hear them. And more, the way kids communicate, and other people, texting and email, you don't see or hear them. And you get up in front of an audience like, whoa, I'm kind of out of my comfort zone here. You have all those eyeballs staring at you. But there are some reasons they have a fear of public speaking. First of all, if you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, how many times have you heard somebody go on, and they really don't know their subject matter? They should be afraid. Secondly, if they don't know the structure of a presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people who just ramble and repeat and re-ramble. And the structure of a presentation is like the recipe for a great cake. There are specific ingredients that go in at specific times. You do specific things to them, and you get a great presentation. And the other thing is, if you don't practice, practicing is not optional. A lot of people think they can get up and wing it. The example I always give is we had the Olympics up in Sochi, Russia last year. Does anybody think those great athletes just showed up for their game, match, or meet? No, I mean, some of them dedicated years of their lives. And if you think about musicians, actors, singers, they don't just show up for the big event.
Yeah.
Bands that have been together for 30 years will rehearse. Why would you think you get in front of an audience and just wing it?
No, it's true. I had years ago, probably over a decade ago, I wanted to improve my ability to go meet strangers. And so I went out on the street. I did this for days. I literally dedicated days and days to it, hours and hours, probably a good 20 hours worth of going out on the street, meeting perfect strangers, no clipboard, no anything, just meeting people in shops and everything, and striking up conversations with them, because I wanted to improve my ability, my comfort with people I didn't know. And at some point I had like a sort of a aha, sort of a wow moment where I busted through something, and all of a sudden I was comfortable. I'd reached a new comfort level with strangers. And so I guess public speaking is the same way. You might be freaking out, nervous on the inside, but you just have to do it.
Oh, yeah. Face the fear and do it anyway. And to your point, when we get out of our comfort zone, we make it larger. Mm-hmm. And I heard a great quote, learning begins at the edge of our comfort zone.
It's a great quote.
In fact, a little bit off the subject, but there's a fellow I follow in the New York Times Sunday business section, Adam Bryant. It's called The Corner Office, and he always writes about these corner executives in the corner office, high achieving, and he wrote a book. And one of the things he found they had in common was they are not comfortable unless they are uncomfortable, because they know that's where it begins. And if you can embrace that, and if you know some of these basics, know your subject, know the structure of a presentation, and practice, then you'll be good at it. Now, there's something else, though, fear of public speaking. A couple other things I want to cover. There are the what ifs. Mm-hmm. And the what if is, what if they don't like me? What if the speaker they had last week was really, really good, and they're comparing me to them, and I suck? Or what if I'm not perfect? Man, I got to be perfect. I can't get in front of this audience and miss something. But the biggest what if a lot of people have is, what if I got to talk about? What if what I've got to talk about nobody has any interest in, and they've heard it before and they know more about the subject and they just ignore me. They can't wait to get out of there. That's one of the biggest what ifs that people have. But here's my answer to that, and I'll tell you how I discovered it. Everyone has knowledge and experience that their audience could benefit from. And my personal aha moment was a friend emailed me a question one day. I happened to be at the computer and I knew the answer. I can't remember the question, but I type out the answer and I hit reply. And almost immediately I get a one-word response. Wow. Well, I'm thinking, what's wow? And I write, what's wow? Send it back to him. I go back to work. And I guess it was 15 minutes later, I got his response. And it's relevant to this conversation of, I've got nothing to talk about. He said, sometimes your knowledge base is so wide and so deep, you don't know what you know.
Right.
So your everyday, Barry, that could be somebody's payday. Your everyday could be somebody's aha moment. Let me tell you another story.
It's true. I've run into that again and again, where that everybody has their own viewpoint, their own value that they can contribute to other people.
Yeah, and they don't know it. They're too close to it.
They have no clue.
I'm teaching a special 2-night course at St. Louis Community College, inner city church ladies. They come the first night, and I talk about the components, parts, and elements of a speech and examples, fear of public speaking. They come back a week later and they give presentations. And they're dynamite. I mean, blew me away. But one lady waits to the very end, and she walks up to the front. She goes, I don't have anything to talk about. And she started to sit down. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I said, hold on there. I said, didn't I just hear you tell your classmates that you talk to your kids every day? And she said, well, I do. I said, well, that's good. I said, what do you tell them? She said, well, I tell them to be honest, work hard, keep away from gangs, don't do drugs. I said, it's good stuff. I said, how many children do you have? She says, well, I've got 6. I go, oh, whole class, 6 kids? My gosh. I said, well, that's a big family. I said, what are those children doing today? And she goes, let me think, 4 in college. And I said, stop. I can see on your face. I said, you have 4 in college? She says, I do. I said, I got to believe there are kids in your neighborhood don't go to high school. You have 4 in college and you told the class you don't have anything to talk about? Isn't that a great story? She was too close to it. Yeah. And that happens all the time. I mean, she's got an amazing story.
She's got stories as a mother, how she did it, the ways that her husband deals with the kids.
She had no idea.
Their own reward and penalty system, whatever it might be. They've got
everyone has a story. And in terms of public speaking, it's the stories, the body of a speech. Make a point, tell a story, and tell your personal story, because nobody else can tell that story.
Yeah, I had sort of an interesting moment. Usually, I use I have my presentations pretty laid out. I know exactly something that's going to cue me, and then I'm going to talk about that point, and I might come up with a story that's interesting with regards to it or not, and it varies how much time I spend on something. But I actually went over the weekend and did a fundraiser, and helped at a fundraiser, and I had a prepared list of items I was going to cover. And I covered those, but then during the stage fundraising part of it, we actually asked people from the audience to raise their hand and pledge money. That went on for over an hour, and there were parts of it where, I wasn't prepared, so I had to dredge up stuff, and I actually experienced a bit of that fear that you expressed as one of the reasons. And I love to public speak, but I figured it out and I dredged up something. But preparation is huge.
Well, sure. And Nancy Duarte, she's a presentation guru. She did the slides for Al Gore in Inconvenient Truth. And she says personal stories are the emotional glue that connect your audience to your message. And you want to have an emotional story. Let me tell you another story.
Sure.
I go to a meetup. Maybe you're familiar with meetups.
I am.
And a fellow I became very good friends with, Russ Henneberry, had one. And it was on internet marketing and web design, stuff like that. Anyway, as happens at most meetups or most networking events, he said, what we're going to do before we get started, we're going to go around the room. When it's your turn, stand up, tell us who you are, what you do, give us your elevator speech. And he says, I'm going to go first. He says, my name is Russ. I'm an internet marketing expert. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a husband, a father, a son, and I'm a failure. And then he went on to tell a story of how he failed in a business and the cost to him financially and emotionally. When he said, I'm a failure, he owned the audience. If you ever saw the movie Jerry Maguire, Renee Zellweger, You Had Me at Hello, it was a moment like that. I mean, people thank me for inviting him. Say, that guy is so good. But he made that emotional connection with people.
That's great.
And that's what people, those stories. I mean, he had them. I mean, everything he said was just gospel after it, because it's the stories that people want to hear.
That's great. Yeah, and personal stories, I guess, are a way around preparation.
Well, you don't have to have any notes. You can have a picture. And we talk about having images for your presentation rather than bullet points. I know the story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. That's why I love talking about marketing, because I'm dealing, we've been doing this for 8 years, designing websites for people. It's like we run into every scenario you can think of, and great solutions for people and their personal stories. And so you end up with a lot of material. And so, so marketing's easy to talk about. Marketing and sales, like that's a breeze.
Yeah, and if you build that into your presentation, you know it. You don't have to worry if somebody didn't write that speech for you. I was coaching a guy a couple of weeks ago, a long coaching session, president of a big national company, roll out. It was going to be a news conference, and he had to read. He had written some of the speech, but others had written part of it, and was using teleprompters and monitors, and it's a lot different than being able to just look at a piece of paper and look at some images or look at slides and images. And it was really tough. And the guy's got a good personality, but he had to read all the stuff, and it just wasn't the same. We practiced for hours. Came out pretty good because he was the inventor of the product. But I know during the interviews after the news conference, he was much better because he didn't have to catch all those points as legal made him do.
Right. Teleprompter, that's going to be, I've never even,
Not fun. Not fun at all. No, when I do little videos, in fact, I spent a lot of time, I built my own teleprompter, looking at DIY videos, do it yourself. And I just found it too tough. And short little videos are better anyway. Our attention span is like a gnat. So I would do the video, then I would do the text and have the text below it. And let me get back to this fear of public speaking. Before I forget it, a lot of it goes hand in glove with the fear of failure. So many people are afraid of failing, and they don't realize that failing, that's how you learn stuff. I mean, I always ask an audience, I say, who's ever failed? Of course, all the hands go up. And I said, did you learn more from that or something that went right the first time? It's like, well, of course, the failure. I said, well, failure gets a bad rap. I mean, maybe it's the word failure. If we changed it to experiment, you don't expect an experiment to work right the first time.
Sure.
And you've heard the story, I'm sure, about Thomas Edison. They say it took him 10,000 times to invent the light bulb. And he said, I never failed. I successfully found a lot of ways that didn't work.
Right.
But if we'll embrace failure, if we realize that, hey, that's how you learn. And I play a little video about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. Michael Jordan missed many, many shots. And he says at the end of this video, I've failed and failed and failed again. That's why I succeed.
That's awesome.
Walt Disney was told he had no creative ability. Harlan Sanders didn't sell that recipe, Colonel Sanders chicken, till he was in his 60s. Winston Churchill did not win an election till he was in his 60s. Abraham Lincoln, you talk about failure, depression, business failure, lost all kinds of elections. Oh my gosh, we need to fail more. I mean, that's my lesson to people.
Right, it's the experience.
And I walk that talk. Let me tell you.
That's right. I think any of us who own our own business do. It's like we knock up against something and then we walk away learning something.
Oh yeah.
We run into a wall and at least we walk away saying, "Wow, that was pretty hard."
Yeah, and you learn something from it. But so many people, they're afraid of doing it. And that's, part of that fear of public speaking because it is so powerful. Mm-hmm. My mantra is speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. No one ever challenges that statement.
No.
Why would they?
No, it's true.
Oh.
It's funny. Despite everything that's going on with social media and everything, I heard I was reading an article the other day that specifically mentioned public speaking, in-person public speaking, as one of the most important trends for 2015. The year that we're into. So it's like it's vital. You have to learn it.
Oh yeah, and if you think about politics, think about the last debates. President Obama almost blew it when his nonverbal communication against Romney showed that he was disengaged, aloof.
Right.
We believe what we see. In terms of presentation, there's content and delivery. Delivery trumps content. You could have the greatest content in the world, and if you can't deliver that in a manner that educates, entertains, and explains, they'll never get it. On the delivery side, there's verbal and nonverbal. Nonverbal trumps verbal. And in that instance, Obama almost blew it. If you go back in the elections, in the debates, when Clinton, Perot, and Senior Bush, and when Senior Bush looked at his watch, it was over. We can't send mixed messages. We believe what we see.
Right. Yeah. That's fantastic. I hadn't even thought of that as far as public. I mean, I generally don't. My attention's on the audience, and I'm interested in the audience.
Well, see, that's great because intuitively you know it. And the advice I always give people: be audience focused. It's tough to do, but the fact is, nobody comes to see or hear me speak. They came to get some information. They want to learn something.
Right.
And if I can take the focus off myself and how I look and how I sound, and if I focus on the audience, that's one of the laws of presentation. And the quality of your presentation will go up and your anxiety will go down.
Yeah, it's really interesting. You just get interested in them and you pick out individuals and talk to them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. One of the things with regards to fear is sometimes you have people looking back at you from the audience and they're like, there's no expression on their face, or they sit there naturally with a frown, right? But that's just how they are. And then afterwards, they'll walk up to you. You really can't judge how the audience is receiving the talk, because afterwards that person will walk up to you and say, that was an amazing presentation. That was so wonderful.
Oh, I've been there.
And I'm like, what? You look like I was killing you.
Oh, yeah. No, I had a lady in an audience. She's a PR person. I wanted to impress her. I thought she could send me clients. Mm-hmm. And I mean, no expression. I'm thinking, geez, she didn't like it. Same thing happened. She came up and says, that was marvelous. So you never want to prejudge. However, you do want to find a friendly face because you will get energy off of those people. And the other thing I ask the audience always, I say, about this being focused on the audience, I said, you guys came here to learn something, right? They all agree. And I said, the fact is, most of you are glad you're sitting there and not up here. And they agree. And I said, let me ask another question. Is anybody sitting there thinking, I can't wait till Fred screws up, man. I'll be on his Facebook page. I'll diss him. Last time he ever speaks in St. Louis or anywhere else. No, they came to learn something. And if you screw up, they're feeling for you. I mean, their pain is with you.
That's true.
They came to learn something. So you're right. Absolutely right. You got to be audience focused.
Yeah.
Really, as much as I'd love to think they came to see me, they didn't.
It's pretty interesting. One of the things I figured out from the stage too, and I get your feedback on this, because you've really, I mean, your book, No Sweat Public Speaking, we'll put a link to it in the show notes. I mean, it's obviously you've looked over the subject very thoroughly. One of the things I think I figured out, and you can give me your insight on it, is sometimes when I'm pressured to get a lot of material into a short period of time, I find myself speaking a lot quicker. There's more energy involved, and I even get a better response. And I guess it has to do with the liveliness of the presentation is really what it boils down to.
What's your passion you're probably talking about?
Right.
Yeah. And passion will trump anything. And if you take passion plus knowledge plus technique, you'll own the audience. I saw a video I had on my site and it came down, but it was a 13-year-old girl in Toronto speaking to the council. They were going to close a library. And it was 2 a.m. and she was pleading to keep the library open. It was the only access she had to the internet. And she was sitting there crying. She said, I hate public speaking. I can't stand this, but I can't have you close that library. And it was so emotional. Her passion was so great. She got this standing ovation. I mean, they just loved her.
Wow.
If you have a passion to it. But mention timing. Let me throw this out. One of the mistakes a lot of speakers make is in the way they handle questions. And they'll take questions as they go along. Anybody raise their hand, they'll take that question. How many times, Barry, have you been to a presentation and the presenter goes, whoops, we've got 5 minutes left and I got 15 slides. Hold on.
Right.
So here's my advice. In terms of questions, take them, first of all, in your opening. And let me give myself as an example. We're going to talk about the components, parts, and elements of a speech. I'll name them, explain them, give examples. I'm going to give you some tips to take a presentation from blah to ah. We're going to talk about fear of public speaking, why we have it, and I'm going to give some nuggets to lessen it. I've got time set aside for questions. Then I'll close my presentation. Then they know how you're going to handle the questions. And 99 times out of 100, nobody interrupts me, and I'm able to get in all my stuff. Now, if somebody raises their hand, I'll say, do me a big favor. Write that down. If I don't cover it, will you be sure to bring it up during the Q&A? That is huge. Now, let me back up a little bit. The reason I want to take questions and then close is that another one of the laws of presentation is called the law of primacy and recency. The audience best remembers the first and last things they see and hear. More the last thing. The last thing you see and hear me do is going to be the first thing you remember. And if you take it the traditional way of, I close the presentation, maybe I have a challenge or something, the host comes up and says, Fred, can you stick around for some questions? That's how it's usually done. Well, I'm taking questions, and they're going okay, and I got time for one more, just as an example. And Barry raises his hand. He says, Fred, you know, that thing you said about practicing in your mind's eye, are you kidding me? What a bunch of garbage. That never works. Your whole presentation is garbage. Well, time's up. Everybody gets up to leave. The last thing they heard, the first thing they remember, that's not the takeaway I want you leaving with.
No.
So you take questions and then you close the presentation. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
It's huge.
So you take questions, then you have your own little thing
you close.
that you say.
Yeah, the closing is huge.
That's a great.
And when you tell them how you're going to handle the questions, you don't get interrupted. And I've seen this happen too many times. You know, right away somebody asks a question on the second slide, and that question has to do with the second to last slide. Am I going to take that question? And what am I going to do when I get there? No. And it's very important. You're opening. You're in charge. It's your responsibility. Tell the audience how you're going to handle it. And it works. Now, if it's a workshop, or you could take questions after sections and limit the number of questions. But basically, that works exceptionally well. I mean, I've made all these mistakes. That's how I know.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, I'll tell you, one other thing I'd love to cover a little bit is we all run into, and you mentioned it, these speaking encounters where you're at a networking meeting and everybody has to stand up and say hi, and they've got like basically a minute or two at the most. We have to give an elevator speech. Could you tell us what elevator speech is? Because I know you've written a book on this as well, and how you come up with that 1 minute or 2 minute, speech that you have to give.
Well, thanks for asking. Let me give you the backstory of that.
Okay.
It's always the backstory. I'm in a networking group called E4E, and our leader, Bill, comes to me after one of our meetings, and he says, hey, Fred, you're our public speaking presentation expert. How about a presentation next month to the group on how to develop a great elevator speech? I go, geez, mine stinks. I can't believe he asked me this. But I knew it was something I had to come up with. I mean, I coach presentation skills, but I didn't know where I was going to begin. I was a little bit flustered. The next day I'm in my sales class, and we had a new student. And as always happens, the instructor said, we got a newbie today. So before we get started, let's go around the room. When it's your turn, stand up. Tell them who you are, what you do, give them your elevator speech. Well, I tongue trip over mine, and most of my classmates did. But one person, Roy, said something so profound, everyone grabbed a piece of paper and wrote it down. And that was what sparked me to get this elevator speech template built. And that's what I built. And I'll tell you what the phrase was in a little bit. Well, I built this elevator speech template based on 2 words. One, elevator. Build it by the floor. Everyone doesn't need to go to the top floor with you. You don't want to take everyone there. You want to be able to skip floors. Gives you a lot of flexibility. You may want to start on the middle floor and go down. And the other word is speech. An elevator speech is a mini presentation. That's why some people get scared by it, fear of public speaking.
Sure.
But presentation, as I said before, my mantra, speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. And if I'm in front of a big chamber and I get to give my elevator speech, I want somebody sitting there knowing exactly what I do. And the goal of an elevator speech in front of a group is, I know what he does. I don't need that, but I'd be comfortable referring someone to have a conversation with Fred. Or I need that. Let me grab the guy.
Right.
Or I don't need it. Sounds good. That's fine. So I built an elevator speech template on those 2 words. The other audience for an elevator speech is one-on-one. And it happens all the time. You're in line at the grocery store and you say, hey, what do you do? And the guy says, well, I work over at Home Depot in the paint department. What do you do? But we're more familiar with, especially us business people, you go to a networking event. No, you go to an event where there's a speaker and they say, speaker starts at 8, come here at 7:30 and network. Well, in that case, you want to disqualify because you're talking one-on-one. Everyone's not a prospect for what you do. You're not a prospect for everyone. I'll give you an example. I go to a big chamber event and a lady is selling replacement windows for old homes. And she's got a nice elevator speech, probably about a minute and a half. She's giving it to everyone. I got to tell you, there are people that are renting. There are people there who could never afford it. There are people there who have no interest. And she sees a limited number of people. I want to disqualify people. Okay, I'll give you the elevator speech. Yeah, a lot of sense because we spend major time on minor possibilities. So I built it by the floor and I'm going to give it to you. There's 8 floors. I'm Fred Miller. I'm a speaker, coach, and an author. The title of my first book is No Sweat Public Speaking. Businesses, individuals, and organizations hire me because they want to improve their networking, public speaking, and presentation skills. They do that because they know speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. They also know we perceive really good speakers as experts. We like to work with experts. I show them how to develop, practice, and deliver a knock your socks off presentation with no sweat. And that's probably 45 seconds. I'll break down my floor. First of all, your name. Fred Miller is a pretty simple name. I've got a friend whose name is Mike Ramatowski. Wow. And my advice to Mike is say, hi, my name is Mike. Right. The problem with a name like that, people are going to say, it's a name like this. Yeah, they're going to say, is it SKY, SKI? What's the derivation? We only got 8 floors.
Right. What language is that? Right. That's what I get all the time. It's like, is that what language is that?
You better say, my name is Barry.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. Second floor, what you do. I'm a speaker, coach, and an author. And hopefully they're thinking, what does he speak about? Was he written? And was he coach? Third floor is your credibility. The title of my first book is No Sweat Public Speaking. One of the reasons I wrote the book, Barry, people perceive authors as experts.
Sure.
We like to work with authors. We like to work with experts. Being in business 8 years as you've been, that's big credibility. Anything you have to lend credibility to your elevator speech. Then the other thing, the next floor was businesses, individuals, and organizations hire me. Hire me is the phrase my friend used that everyone wrote down because most people say, I help companies. I work with people. No. What hire me says is, that's a little in your face. They say, I'm proud of what I do. I'm good at it. And you know what? There's some jack attached to it. And if that's a disqualifier, that's fine.
Sure.
The other word is because. Businesses, individuals, and organizations hire me because. Because is an influencer word. And if you think about when you're a kid, well, Mom, why do I have to? Because I said so.
Right.
Well, but I think, no, because it's the right thing to do. Those two phrases. And then, the other thing, the next phrase, the next floor, 5th floor is they do that because they know speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. Have you ever heard of Simon Sinek's Golden Circle? This is huge. You've got to look this up on the internet. Because what he says, it's not what you do, it's why you do it. That's the DNA of my elevator speech. Speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. If you don't believe that, and that's fine, we got no reason to continue the conversation. But Simon Synek, S-Y-N-E-K, I believe, look it up on YouTube.
We'll put it in the show notes for people.
Oh, it's huge.
That's great.
The example he gives is most companies say, we do this. We're a big computer company. Our computers have lots of RAM, huge hard drives. They're cheap. Do you want to buy one? Apple starts with why. I happen to be an Apple guy. Apple says, do you want to be creative? Do you want to be more productive than you could ever imagine? And do you want to do it with equipment that's fun and easy to use? We're Apple. Entirely different perspective. Isn't that huge?
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And then you go on another floor. I think I reinforce speakers. We perceive them as experts. And then your USP, unique selling proposition. I show them how to develop, practice, and deliver a knock your socks off presentation with no sweat. Now, if it's a one-on-one, there's another floor I add to it, and it's enough about me. What do you do, Barry? But if I want to turn into a prospecting question, I say, hey, enough about me, Barry. What do the folks at your company do for public speaking and presentation skills training?
Exactly. Or in my case, great. Are you guys happy with how your website's doing for you?
Yeah. Or you could actually do a little bit different. You could say, you're happy with everything that's being done for your website, aren't you? You're getting more leads than you can handle, right?
Probably not. Yeah, but yeah,
Really?
they probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, that's great. That's fantastic. All right, well, great. I appreciate you coming today. And speaking of the last thought, we want to leave people thinking. What do you want to leave them with?
Speaking opportunities are business, career, and leadership opportunities. And if you're not taking those, you need to get out of that comfort zone. It'll make it larger. Study the stuff. Look at videos. My two greatest nuggets for lessening the fear of public speaking are practice, practice, practice. And Steve Jobs, the best of the best, would practice for weeks to give a 90-minute presentation. The other thing is just do it. The learning is in the doing. And what's the worst could happen?
Yeah.
No.
You fail, which means you learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. All right. Well, fantastic. Thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
And hopefully you'll come back.
Oh, yeah. That was fun.
Is your website working for you? Is your website getting you results? Do you get daily or weekly leads? You should be. If you're not getting the leads that you need, it's time to reevaluate your website. Get our professional website evaluation. Go to reallivemarketing.com and sign up for our professional website evaluation. Let's get this done today and bring your website up to where it needs to be. Now, is that awesome or what? A lot of fun to talk about public speaking. As I mentioned before the show, it's a vital skill that you have to become good at. No doubt about it. You must become comfortable at doing public speaking. Now, here's a couple power tips that I have regarding public speaking. 1, study everything you can about your subject. Okay, if your subject is public speaking, well, I'm sure, I don't know if this is true or not, but if I was someone like Fred and going to write a book on public speaking, and I was going to speak constantly about public speaking, I would literally read every book that I could put my hands on regarding public speaking. I'd sift through and find the useful, the dreary, the uninteresting, the vital. I'd score these things, and I would assemble them into a series of key points and elaborate from there. The main thing I want to stress here is, though, study everything you can. If you were going to begin speaking on World War II, well, you might want to read about 50, 60, or 70 books on World War II. Really, just dig in and learn everything you can about the subject. World War II is such an extensive subject in itself. You could break that down further into things like people have, such as D-Day, etc. Or if you wanted to do talks about our founding fathers, well, I'd pick up and study everything I could on the subject, watch documentaries, again, sifting out the true data from the false data and finding the vital points that I had to punch up to my audience as the things they had to take home with them. So that's tip number 1. Find everything you can on your subject and study and read it and grade the data. Point number 2, get comfortable talking with people. Here's a pretty simple exercise that I did that really brought me to a whole new level regarding talking with strangers. Because if you think about it, quite often your group, the people that you're standing in front of, are a whole big group of strangers. The exercise that I did is I went out day after day for hours at a time, meeting people and just having conversations with them, finding out what they thought was interesting about things, finding out their ideas, what they were up to, etc. I just went out and talked to person after person after person, finding out about them, sharing my ideas, etc. I probably had conversations with about 50 to 60 different people consecutively, doing this exercise day after day, until finally I had some big realization about talking with people. I realized that it was easy, I could be comfortable doing it, and nobody hated me. In fact, they all appreciated the conversation. Okay, so my final and third tip is call my office and find out about a special communication course that you can do that will take your communication skills out over the top. We have a special course that we're involved with that I've done probably about more than half a dozen times. This course teaches you to be calm, relaxed, and comfortable when communicating with others. It also teaches you how to maneuver and navigate various communication situations. So it's valuable in life as well, not just in public speaking situations. So there you go. There's my power tips for becoming a fantastic speaker. Read Fred's book for sure. Study everything you can on the subject. Do those power tips and practice, practice, practice. Public speaking is a valuable skill. Establish yourself as a leader by being able to take control of a group and lead them through your presentation. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to check out the show notes with all the great information that we had to offer on reallivemarketing.com.